In response to criticism of her fiscal measures, the Prime Minister has been careful to emphasise global forces, namely the war in Ukraine and its impact on the world economy. In the past few days, the situation has become even more complex and alarming, with Russia annexing 4 Ukrainian territories and stepping up its nuclear sabre-rattling. The Conservative MP Bob Seeley is a member of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, a former soldier, and he worked as a journalist in Ukraine. I know all about that because I remember talking to him down a crackly phone line in Kyiv 30 years ago when I was his very junior editor on the Times Foreign Desk. Well, this evening I spotted Bob outside the main conference hall and I asked him for his assessment of the situation.
Is this the beginning of the end? To paraphrase Churchill, no, but it's the end of the beginning. In the last month, the Ukrainians have become quite clear in their own minds that they can win this. The Russians have now entered this new phase of the war with effectively a defensive mindset. They're going to hold what they can in increasingly, effectively desperate circumstances. So the annexation, the formal annexation, Putin is declaring these lands are our lands. The mobilization of Russian troops, so he's going to throw conventional power, just force numbers apart from anything else, of troops to hold this territory. Thirdly, the continued threat of nuclear war against the West to try to scare us. Critically, to break the umbilical cord. Ukraine's weakness now is its dependence on the West. Economic dependence, and they are militarily dependent now because they can't produce their own arms because those arms factories will be destroyed. One final point, the blowing up of the Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2 pipelines, that is Putin saying to the West, we will hit your undersea cables, internet, energy, the things that you rely on.
And when he threatens nuclear weapons, presumably tactical nuclear weapons used on the battlefield in Ukraine, is that serious or is that sabre-rattling?
It is. For anyone to say that he won't use nuclear weapons, sorry, it's just a nonsense. All the people who are saying it's bluff, it's sabre-rattling, we don't need to listen, are Western commentators. All the people who are saying we are going to use these at a given point is the Russian president, his close advisors. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And the way we deal with that is to assume that this is a real threat so that we can plan back from that to minimise the chances of it happening.
Now, Liz Truss says she is as committed to the defence of Ukraine as Boris Johnson. Indeed, she's talking about increasing defence spending. Your assessment of her commitment and what more can the UK do?
The people who provided Boris with a spine on Ukraine were Ben Wallace and Liz Truss. So the idea that Liz Truss is going to be weak on Ukraine when it was her, the Prime Minister now, and the Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, who said we need to get this kit, we need to support with other stuff as well, those two politicians, was Liz and was Ben. I'm absolutely confident that she will continue. We're doing so much on the military front, second behind the US, that's fabulous. Is there more, strategic military advisors? Do they need more integration or more support for lawyers? Help with war crimes? Because the scale of the war crimes, do we need to be providing more digital support so they can look at forensics, digital forensics? There's probably more that we could be doing. There's always improvements, but actually sometimes it's very difficult to suggest those improvements because we're so across the board.